prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilizations, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captivated audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on Code Flix.
Hello and welcome to Code Flix, the podcast where we take a deep dive into your favorite sci-fi and fantasy TV shows and movies. I'm Andre Bonner, and in today's episode, we'll be looking at the lens evil will go to wipe out the Fifth Element in the movie The Fifth Element from 1997. This movie had me on the edge of my seat. I love a good apocalyptic movie which blends a great captivating story with action sequences. The Fifth Element is a 1997 English-language French science fiction action film conceived and directed by Luc Besson, as well as co-written by Besson and Robert Mark Kamen. It stars Bruce Willis, Gary Oldman, Ian Holm, Mila Jovovich, and Chris Tucker. Primarily set in the 23rd century, the film's central plot involves the survival of planet Earth, which becomes the responsibility of Corbin Dallas Willis, a taxi cab driver and former Special Forces major, after a young woman, Jovovich, falls into his cab. To accomplish this, Dallas joins forces with her to recover 4 mystical stones essential for the defense of Earth against the impending attack of a malevolent cosmic entity. Benson started writing the story that was developed as The Fifth Element when he was 16 years old. He was 38 when the film opened in cinemas. Besson wanted to shoot the film in France, but suitable facilities could not be found. Filming took place in London and Montreal instead. He hired comic artists Jean Mobius Girard and Jean-Claude Mirez, whose books inspired parts of the film for production design. Costume design was done by Jean-Paul Gaultier. The Fifth Element received mainly positive reviews, although some critics were highly negative. The film won in categories at the British Academy Film Awards, the César Awards, the Cannes Film Festival, and the Lumineers Awards, but also received nominations at the Golden Raspberry and Stinker's Bad Movie Awards. The Fifth Element was a strong financial success, earning more than US $263 million at the box office on a $90 million budget. At the time of its release, it was the most expensive European film ever made, and it remains the highest-grossing French film at the international box office until the release of The Intouchables in 2011. In 1914, aliens known as Bandashawans meet their contact on Earth, a priest of a secret order at an ancient Egyptian temple. They take the only weapon capable of defeating a great evil that appears every 5,000 years, promising to protect it and return it before the great evil's re-emergence. The weapon consists of the 4 classical elements, as 4 engraved stones, plus a sarcophagus containing a 5th element. In 2263, the great evil appears in deep space as a giant living fireball. It destroys an armed Earth spaceship as it heads to Earth. The Mandashawans' current human contact on Earth, priest Vito Cornelius, informs the president of the Federated Territories of the great evil's history and of the weapon that can stop it. On their way to Earth, a Mondoshawan spacecraft carrying the weapon is ambushed and destroyed by a crew of Mangalores, alien mercenaries hired by Earth industrialist John Baptiste Manuel Zorg, who is working for the great evil. A severed hand in metal armor from the wreckage of a spacecraft is brought to New York City. From this, the government uses biotechnology to recreate the original occupant of the sarcophagus, a humanoid woman named Lilu, who remembers her previous life. Alarmed by the unfamiliar surroundings and high security, she escapes and jumps off a ledge, crashing into the flying taxicab of Corbin Dallas, a former major in the Earth Special Forces. Dallas delivers Lilu to Cornelius and his apprentice David, who recognizes her as a fifth element. As Lilu recuperates, she tells Cornelius that the stones were not on board the Mondoshawan's ship. Simultaneously, the Mondashawans inform Earth's government the stones were entrusted to an alien opera singer, the diva Pavlaguna. Zorg reneges on his deal with the Mangalores for failing to obtain the stones and kills some of them. Earth's military sends Dallas to meet Pavlaguna. A rigged radio contest provides a cover, awarding Dallas a luxury vacation aboard a flying hotel on planet Fluston, accompanied by a flamboyant talk show host Ruby Rod. It includes a concert by Pavlaguna, and learning that Lilu shares his mission, Dallas lets her accompany him. Cornelius instructs David to prepare the temple, then stows away on the luxury spaceship. The Mangalore crew pursues the stones for themselves, also illegally aboard the ship. During the concert, Mangalores attack and kill Pavlaguna. Dallas extracts the stones from her body and kills the Mangalore leader, causing the others to surrender. Zorg arrives, shoots Lilu, and activates a time bomb. He flees with a carrying case he presumes contains the stones, but returns when he discovers it is empty. Dallas finds Lilu traumatized and escapes with her, Cornelius, Rod, and the stones in Zorg's private spaceship. Zorg deactivates his bomb, but a dying Mangalore sets off his own, destroying the hotel and killing Zorg. As the great evil approaches Earth, the four meet David at the temple. They deploy the stones, but Lilu, having learned of humanity's history of cruelty, has given up on life. Dallas declares his love for her and kisses her. Lilu combines the power of the stones, emitting divine light onto the great evil and defeating it. She and Dallas are hailed as heroes, and as dignitaries wait to greet them, the two passionately embrace in a recovery chamber. Here are some of the key themes and symbols in the fifth element. Good versus evil. At its core, the fifth element is a classic tale of good versus evil. The ancient evil entity, symbolized by a giant sentient planet, seeks to annihilate all life, while the forces of good, represented by the four classical elements, earth, water, fire, air, and the fifth element, Lilu, strive to prevent this destruction. Love and sacrifice. The film emphasizes the theme of love as a powerful and transformative force. The fifth element, Lilu, represents supreme love, which ultimately saves the world. The narrative shows how love can inspire individuals to make significant sacrifices for the greater good. Technology and humanity. Set in a futuristic world with advanced technology, the film explores the relationship between technology and humanity. It contrasts the cold, impersonal nature of the technological advancements with the warmth and vibrancy of human emotions and connections. Heroism. The theme of heroism is central to the story, with Corbin Dallas, Bruce Willis embodying the reluctant hero who rises to the occasion. The film portrays heroism as an act of bravery and selflessness and determination in face of overwhelming odds. diversity, and unity. The multicultural and diverse world of The Fifth Element highlights themes of unity and cooperation. Characters from different backgrounds and species come together to fight against a common threat, symbolizing the strength found in diversity. Here are some of the symbols. The fifth element, Lilu. Lilu, the human embodiment of fifth element, symbolizes purity, love, and the ultimate weapon against evil. Her character represents the idea that love is the most powerful force in the universe. The four stones. The four stones representing earth, water, fire, and air are crucial to the plot. They symbolize the classical elements and the balance required to maintain harmony in the universe. These stones must be united with the fifth element to unleash their full power. Light and darkness. The film uses light and darkness as symbolic representations of good and evil. The radiant light emitted by the fifth element contrasts sharply with the engulfing darkness of the evil entity, highlighting the eternal struggle between the opposing forces. Divine language. Lilu's ability to speak a divine language that no one else understands symbolizes the idea that love and purity transcends ordinary human comprehension. It emphasizes her role as a savior and a being of higher significance. Zorg's Corporation. The character of John Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, Gary Oldman, and his corporation symbolize corporate greed and corruption. Zorg's willingness to align with the forces of evil for profit represents the destructive and potential of unchecked ambition and materialism. Flying cars and futuristic cityscapes. The film iconic visual elements such as flying cars and towering cityscapes symbolizes the advanced technology society in which the story takes place. These elements create a vivid backdrop for the narrative and highlight the contrast between human innovation and timeless battle between good and evil. Overall, the fifth element pulls these themes together and symbols to enhance the storytelling aspect. And as I mentioned before, this is what captivated me and makes me continue to watch. Here's a character analysis of the main characters. Corbin Dallas, played by Bruce Willis. Corbin Dallas is a former Special Forces major turned taxi driver who becomes an unlikely hero. Willis portrays Corbin as a rugged, no-nonsense character with a dry sense of humor and a sense of duty. Despite his initial reluctance, Corbin is resourceful and brave, willing to risk his life to save humanity. His journey from a disillusioned veteran to a savior highlights themes of redemption and heroism. Lilu, played by Mila Jovovich. Lilu, also known as Lilu Mina Lekatrebra, Lamina Techai Ekbat Desebat, is the fifth element, a supreme being created to protect the universe. Jovovich portrays Lilu with a blend of innocence, strength, and vulnerability. Her character is both physical, formidable, and emotionally expressive, embodying purity and the power of love. Lilu's struggle to understand human emotions and her ultimate realization of love's importance are central to the film's narrative. John Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, played by Gary Oldman. Zorg is a primary antagonist, a corrupt industrialist working for the malevolent force known as Mr. Shadow. Oldman's portrayal of Zorg is eccentric, flamboyant, and menacing. He is motivated by greed and a desire for power, willing to cause mass destruction for profit. Zorg's character represents corporate malfeasance and destructive nature of unchecked ambition. Father Vito Cornelius, played by Ian Holm. Father Vito Cornelius is a priest and expert on the ancient knowledge of the elements. Holm portrays Cornelius as earnest, knowledgeable, and slightly bumbling. He is dedicated to his mission of guiding Lilu and stopping the great evil. His character provides crucial exposition and spiritual guidance, emphasizing the film's themes of fate and destiny. Ruby Rod, played by Chris Tucker. Ruby Rod is an eccentric and flamboyant radio host who becomes an unexpected ally to Corbin and Lilu. Tucker's energetic and over-the-top performance brings a comedic and chaotic element to the film. Ruby's character adds to the film's vibrant and unconventional tone, contrasting with the seriousness of the impending threat. General Monroe, played by Brian James. General Monroe is a military leader who recruits Corbin for the mission to save the world. James portrays Monroe as a stern and authoritative figure, yet he respects Corbin's abilities and judgment. His character underscores the collaboration between military force and individual heroism in the face of global threats. Mr. Shadow, or the Great Evil. Mr. Shadow is the embodiment of pure evil, an ancient force that threatens to destroy all life. The character is more of a looming presence than a physical being, symbolizing ultimate destruction and the antithesis of life and love. The menace of Mr. Shadow drives the urgency of the protagonist's mission. Overall, in the Fifth Element, the distinctive characters each contribute to the film's blend of action, humor, heartfelt moments. The dynamic interplay between the characters, they set against a strikingly visual backdrop, making the film a memorable and enduring sci-fi classic. Here's a detailed overview of the production and design aspects of the movie. Production. Directed by Luc Besson, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Robert Mark Kamen. Besson originally conceived the story when he was a teenager. The cast include Bruce Willis as Corbin Dallas, a former Special Forces major turned taxi driver. Mila Jovovich as Lilo, the Fifth Element, a supreme being and the key to saving Earth. Gary Oldman as John Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, a corrupt industrialist. Ian Holm as Father Vito Cornelius, a priest who assists Corbin. Chris Tucker as Ruby Rod, a flamboyant radio host. The movie was filmed primarily at Pinewood Studios in the UK and various locations in Mauritania for desert scenes. The film features a mix of practical effects and CGI, overseen by visual effects supervisor Mark Stenson. The futuristic cityscapes and space sequences were groundbreaking at the time. Cinematography by Terry Arbabas captures the vibrant, colorful, and eclectic world of the future, emphasizing dynamic action sequences and visually rich environments. Production design by Dan Wheel is highly stylized, creating a vivid and imaginative future. The design of New York City in the 23rd century is particularly notable, with towering skyscrapers, flying cars, and bustling multi-level streets. The film also features various alien worlds and spaceships, each with its unique aesthetic, adding to the film's diverse visual landscape. Costume design by Jean-Paul Gaultier is one of the film's most distinctive features. Gaultier creates over 1,000 costumes blending futuristic and exotic styles. Lilu's iconic bandage outfit and Ruby Rod's flamboyant wardrobe are particularly memorable. The costumes help to define the characters, the world they inhabit, from the sleek uniforms of the military to the eclectic attire of the citizens and aliens. Sound design and music. The soundtrack, composed by Eric Serra, combines orchestral, electronic, and world music elements, enhancing the film's eclectic and futuristic atmosphere. The sound design contributes to the immersive experience with detailed audio effects for the futuristic technology, alien languages, and action sequences. The combination of innovative visual effects bridge a gap of distinctive pieces, especially with the costume design and dynamic soundtrack, which creates a very immersive experience. As you know, I love when I am immersed fully into a show. It brings me more into the world and it piques my interest even more. Makes me want to live there, makes me want to interact in that environment. The costume design, it was so notable. There are so many different costumes you can point at. You can say, hey, that is just definitely what it would look like at that time. Even for the opening sequence where in 1914, it was accurate to the period because back in that time, they would have been explorers in a tomb in a desert setting, and so you're expecting that. The Fifth Element is a beloved film. How many times we can say it? And it's because of these production and design elements that make it come to life. The film premiered on the 7th of May at the 1997 Cannes Films Festival, where it was selected as the opening film. Gaumont built an area for screening that was over 100,000 square feet. Guests were given a Fifth Element swatch, which was used as their ticket for entry. The event included a futuristic ballet, a fashion show by Jean-Paul Gaultier, and fireworks. Gaumont spent between 1 million and 3 million on the event, a record at that time. The film's North American release was handled by Sony Pictures, releasing via its Columbia Pictures label. Critics were divided in their response to The Fifth Element. Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times described the film as an elaborate, even campy sci-fi extravaganza, which is nearly as hard to follow as last year's Mission Impossible. He concluded that The Fifth Element was a lot warmer, more fun, and boasts some of the most sophisticated, witty production and costume design you could ever hope to see. On the American Film Review at the Movies, both Robert Ebert and Gene Siskel gave the film a thumbs up. In this separate review for the Chicago Sun-Times, Ebert gave the film 3 stars out of 4, calling it one of the great goofy movies, and concluding, I would not have missed seeing this film, and I recommend it for its richness of imagery, but at 127 minutes, which seems at a reasonable length, it plays long. The film also received reviews that criticized its overblown style. Todd McCarthy of Variety wrote a largely misfired European attempt to make an American-style sci-fi spectacular. The Fifth Element consists of a hodgepodge of elements that don't comfortably coalesce. David Edelstein of Slate said it may or may not be the worst movie ever made, but is one of the most unhinged. Chris Tucker's performance as Ruby Rhod also divided critics. He was praised in the Los Angeles Times and Time. The latter called him the summer's most outrageous special effect. Josh Winning of the Total Film singled out Tucker's performance as the low point of the film, ranking it as number 20 on the 2011 list 50 performances that ruined movies. The Fifth Element holds a 71% approval rating at Rotten Tomatoes based on 68 reviews with an average score of 6.4 out of 10. The science consensus reads visually inventive and gleeful, over the top. Luc Besson, The Fifth Element is a fantastic piece of pop sci-fi that never takes itself too seriously. At Metacritic, it has a weighted score of 52 out of 100 based on the reviews from 22 critics indicating mixed or average reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of B and an A+ to F scale. So here are some of my personal insights and interpretations. Aziz, light, much better. Thank you, Aziz. This is after he's gotten the light from the Mandashawan ship without knowing that it was from something happening. He was there waiting for what was happening. Now, previous to this, the priest was actually trying to poison him. Yeah, that can't be overlooked, right? Billy, what are you doing? Put down the gun. At that moment, I mean, anybody could be in a particular situation like that. You find yourself contemplating a few things because you see your mentor on the floor, presumably dead. We're not sure because we don't get anything else out of the professor. So we can assume that he's out cold. And Billy has come to his senses because at that point he would have been scared and frightened. He was drawing the Mandashawans on the ground and get up now, get the courage to take up the gun, and he's trying to figure out what's happening and whether he needs to defend himself. And the priest is trying to basically explain that you don't need to use the gun. But poor Billy, he's not even interested in that at that point. The great evil reappears after being away for 300 years. I mean, it's so classic in sci-fi that, especially when you have a mythology that surrounds certain actions, that this kind of thing is almost like an exact science. So the Mandashawans would have entrusted the priest to pass on information, and that's the last thing that the Mandashawan that got stuck in the crypt would have said to the priest. He said, pass on the information to your descendants, basically just passing on that information. Now, none of these persons in the line, in the chain, would have been witness to anything, right, up to that point. Even that priest at that time, he would not have probably met the Mandashawans, but he would have been told by his predecessor what to expect. Time when they were appearing there, he knew what they would be like and what, to expect. And so he knew that would happen. And them basically saying, hey, you need to know that this is going to happen in 300 years. We're going to come back, right? We're going to bring back all of this because it's no longer safe here. We have found that for some reason our intelligence, as the Mandashawan's intelligence has given them a reason to take the 5 elements. So yeah, it's very interesting that the great evil will reappear at the exact time. And so there is a kind of a dance, I think, a balance that is being shown here, that is good that is trying to preserve and evil that is trying to destroy, right? The priest Vito attempting to convince the president he knows what is happening. They are on the brink of being in contact with a entity that they know nothing about really. And just like with anything, human beings are curious, especially when it comes to something. You want to know whether it is something that is threatening or it is something that you can trust, or at least you be on the watch for what it is. So you want to find out what it is. So them approaching the great evil of the planet at that time, not knowing what it was a natural response to wanting to know what was happening. And so priest Vito, basically he has come now to input some knowledge. This is something I think would necessarily could have been done another way. I mean, it works great for the film. Yeah, that's my thought on that. The Mandashawans took great risks coming back with the 5th element. Great risk, because I do believe they are a smart enough race, right? They are slow in movement, but I don't think they're slow in mind, in thought. So wouldn't you want to try and ensure that, think about things strategically, that you wouldn't put yourself in a situation where you would be captured or killed, in this case killed, and possibly lose to the evil one. Of course, perhaps it can be said that the great evil has been putting in his plan into place, and so his plan subsedes the Mandashawan plan, and the Mandashawan plan was all along for that to happen, because probably they had their reasons why they wanted it to happen that way, right? Because it wasn't just one Mandashawan that came. So to have the Mandashawan who took the 5 elements and him wanna come back, it wanna come back, it means that they had something else in mind, Where were they? The 5 elements. Couldn't they use the 5 elements there or put it into place there, wherever they were? Something to think about there. So awesome technology, isn't it? Advanced technology of a full body replication from alien DNA. Now, that particular scene I enjoyed watching, because I was like, whoa, look at what science could possibly be doing. And remember, at the time when this film was being done, the discussions around these things wasn't at where they are now. And what we knew back in 1997 compared to what we know now in terms of science has advanced even further. So we're even closer to doing things with DNA, right, that we weren't able to do at that time. And this is what I'm talking about when I say I like a good sci-fi that bridges the gap between reality and fiction. And this is where it's at, because this is something that, theoretically, no. I'm not saying we have the machine or the science right now to do it, but we have the thoughts, the concept of what it would be to build something from DNA. At this point, we wouldn't be able to grow it like within a matter of seconds or not like that, but it might be something that's on a minuscule level, like probably a cell or a few cells. And we do things with vaccines. So if we're able to build vaccines and have live stuff there, then couldn't we build things, machines that could, on a molecular level, on a microscopic level, that could do this kind of work? The fifth element drops into Corbin's life, literally. Just drops in into his taxi cab. I mean, that was a great symbol. It was just like, here you are, boop, and that whole scene with them back and forth, him trying to understand what she's about, why she fell into his cab, and the casual way in which it is played off, it's just crazy. Yeah, and that Corbin's change of heart after considering to tell the Turner over to the cops, because here it is that he doesn't know what they're after her for. She could well be a criminal, right? Trying to escape. She could have killed a couple people and dangerous and so on. And from the way them attack about her, he could be convinced that, hey, that's the best prospect. But the fact that she seems so sincere, and she gave him the eyes and she used the voice, please help, with her, just learning those words from reading it off a sign. I mean, that they can't make that up. You can't. That was really interesting. Really, really interesting to watch. The priest thinks that Corbin is trying to marry a drunk or passed out woman. Comes up to the door of a priest, knocks him down and say, hey, better look for a priest. And a woman in them arms. I mean, what else you want? I mean, like, what else would you expect? The man for feel like say, hey, but you're there legitly for some reason, but no, you're not. You know, think she's half naked, and he's supposed to be a man of a cloth, and he's not. So yeah, that whole thing was very, very comedic. Good, and that's some of the things that I like about it, with those comedic timing and elements. Pretty good to watch. So a minute after all of this happens, Corbin Dallas is recruited as a special agent for the government, and he's recruited before he even get the call or be contacted by his former captain or superior. Them actually rig a contest and have the man name on the radio. Now, I don't know if it is like, if it was meant to be a secret mission, because if it was meant to be a secret mission, I think you would have go to the man and just give him the ticket and say, yo, just make sure say dip on the flight, make sure say you're there and thing. Because we get the intelligence here and blah blah blah. You wouldn't want to put it out on the radio like that. You know what I'm saying? And is that good cover? Could that really be good cover? But it also blends into the whole comedic element again. So I won't too bash it for that. So Lilu is learning all of these languages. Learning everything that she can about humanity through the internet, through the data that she's getting and all of that, and watching TV, consuming a lot of stuff, right? Lilo learns the word multipass. The priest that's in his squire, and him squire wasn't doing a good job in the first place, and then Corbin see him and Corbin get him out of there, toss him basically to the side and take over and ensures that they got on the plane without any issues whatsoever. It's just crazy. I mean, her just, repeated like multipass, Lilu, multipass, multipass. And I'm like, yeah, it's just crazy. Yeah. It just shows that she's at an infancy stage of repeating things, that she just learned without understanding the full context around it. But she's still learning as she's going along. So in her doing that, she's still picking up things, picking up cues. Yeah, and everyone wants to be Corbin Dallas, right? So after Corbin already is on the plane, two more henchmen come on, like, I'm Corbin Dallas. Like, really, bro? Like, he's already on the plane. That's basically the flight attendant is like, he's already on the plane. I can't help you. And one of them get rowdy and almost get shot by the automated police system. Ruby Rod is a sexual god. He wants all positions. Oh yeah, this part was really, really crazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what the? I mean, when I first probably watched this, I was like, what is going on here? I'm not too sure what's going on. And then I'm like, oh, he's doing that. Oh, yeah. Swiper, no swiping. Swiper, no swiping. You're too late. Listeners, you have to watch this movie, okay? To get that reference that I gave. Because I'm just going to leave it there. Pablo Garner's performance was spectacular. And what made it even more spectacular is that it mirrors the actions of Lilo at the same time. So while we are listening to the performance and they cut in and out of her performance, and she was doing really nicely, but we get to see Lilo in action, what she had learned, the martial arts that she learned, and stuff. And, at the same time, all of that happening, and down to the wire, down to her being shot at by that crazy guy, that crazy fellow. Yeah. So after all hell breaks loose with the Mangalores attack, which I think was a dumb decision, and you have to understand too that they are a dumb set of henchmen. And I say henchmen because to me it's just crazy that these guys are supposed to be indirectly working for the great evil, and the great evil has been planning to take the 5 elements. Corbin saves the day with his experience, dispatched them brutally. That was really good to see. Once everything died down, the race to reach back to Earth before the great evil was something to see as well. I mean, you basically say, all right, you have less time to get there than the great evil will have to come, because it speed up by this time, because they realize, hey, them have the 5 elements now, so that means them can actually win this thing. I need to get there faster, because the great evil was just trying to menacingly scare and put fear. So I by introducing that element, I think it shows that what he's trying to accomplish is to have the human race on the edge of their seats, literally, and feed off that fear. I think that makes it stronger. And that's why normal weapons don't work, because they basically feed. It feeds on anger, it feeds on negative emotions. So they get back to Earth, and it's time now to activate the 5 elements. And fire burns, wind blows, rain falls, and we don't get anything else. All right, Lilu has passed out, and she can't give much help right this time. So we're trying to figure out what does it mean to fire burn, wind blow, rain fall, and then suddenly somebody blows on one of the stones and it opens. And they try to figure out why it's opening, and they say, "Oh, it's because this one is wind." And so, and say, "All right, fire for fire, water and, All right, so I'm thinking Earth is moves, right? So probably she was gonna say Earth moves, and at that point, love hurts, right? And I have a reason why I say that, because it can hurt if it's not properly understood, or we're not at that level, because love is a complex thing. Love, and that's what makes the 5th element so interesting, and it's something that everybody should watch, because it dives deep into this understanding that throughout everything, love can be great, it can be awesome, but at the same time, it can be painful at times, especially when you want things a particular way and it's not working out the way you're expecting, or you are caught off guard by unexpected events, things happening. So yeah, it's one of those things. And of course, they defeat the great evil, and they finish by lovemaking in the recovery chamber. And who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that putting 2 adults who just profess their love to one another in the same chamber would lead to something like that? So here are a few theories that I have. And again, I have some questions that I'm going to answer the best way I can. What was the 5th element? Yes, the 5th element is shown to be a symbol for love, a love that is unconditional. And I would even take it a step further to say that love is one of those things that everyone ought to know, right? Love binds us together as a human race. When you enter into love, and you have love that is unconditional, no matter what happens, you are bounded by that feeling. You communicate that through the actions that you take. You do things that you wouldn't normally do. And love is irrational. There is no rhyme or reason to it. You just are in love. You just be and do. If you're expecting things to be good, and that is what most persons expect. Many times, yes, love can hurt, but it's how we learn, how we grow in love, and understanding how love can be more, much more. That is what we all strive for in our relationships. And I hope that many persons are actively doing that and not just expecting it to be given without reciprocating it. So the other question is, what is the fifth element's purpose? In the film, we see where the fifth element is the conduit to which where all four elements all four elements come to combine and shoots out. And it's not a coincidence that that is the case, because the elements are foundational and they are what in certain circumstances we would say builds on the basics that we know. So having understood what fire does, it burns. What water does, it falls. What wind does, it blows. What earth does, right? And what love does. We get to understand that all of them operate together. They work in unison, in unity. They are not unto themselves singular, but they work as part of a whole to restore order out of chaos. They work to create, to become even more. So the other question is, what is the great evil? And yes, it is symbolic as well. It is hate. It is the opposite of love. Hate which consumes and consumes. Because if you allow hate to fester, that's what it will do. That's all it knows to do, is to fester and consume. And if it consumes, it will cause issue. It will destroy. It will break down. It will cause chaos. And the other question is, why the great evil wait until the 5 elements were on their way to get into place? The great evil was predestined to be in that role that it was. Perhaps that is all it knows. It only knows hate. It only knows to cause chaos. And that is its function. That's its role. So, what is the purpose of the great evil? The role of the great evil is to balance out existence. That's what I believe. I believe that it is there to allow for a balance to be kept. As we see in the film, the population of the Earth seems to be, much more than probably at the time when the Mondashawans were there. And I think the Mondashawans predicted that with the rate of how human beings populate the Earth, we would find ourselves in a situation where it will be overly populated. The Earth's resources would soon be unable to sustain the population as it grows. So the great evil is there to destroy in order to make way for the 5 elements to restore and to create. So both evil and good are there for a purpose, to balance out. Share your favorite Fifth Element moments or theories. If you follow the questions I was asking, if you have the answers to those questions, you thought about it a different way that you could answer those questions, feel free to share that with us. So in this episode, we looked at the plot of The Fifth Element, a top sci-fi film, one of the top 10s, I believe, as it is now. We looked at the themes and the symbols. We analyzed some of the characters for the film. We looked at the production design, found that it was so unique that the creator was a teenager when he wrote this script. We looked at the reception, critical reception that it received. Some persons like it, some persons don't like it that well. I looked at my analysis on the interpretation of the film, some of my favorite moments and what it meant to me and what, I thought about it, and my own theories in questioning some of the elements of the film that really inspired me. And I hope that it did inspire you as well. So at this time, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe and follow the podcast for future deep dives in a world of science fiction. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. We're on a road to 500. Let's do it, guys. See you next time.